Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to have a go at looking at how to present your models once you've modeled them and textured them. So we're inside of Photoshop, so all I'm going to do is go to New File. I'm just going to use the default size and go on Create. So what I've done first of all is I've got all my models, so I'm going to take it from the R2-D2 model that I've just done a whole video series of. So I've got the model, we kind of want to know how to present it nicely, because obviously you spend ages like modeling and texturing these things, and you want to have a nice way of like presenting them in a portfolio or that type of thing. So what I'm going to do is just file open, and I've got them all on my desktop, so I've got all the ones I want to have. Yeah, so I'm going to click open and bring them here. So what I've got first of all is loads of different views of the same model, just from different angles. So what I'm going to do is just bring them in. So I'm going to go Control C, Control V, just to bring them in. I mean, that's one other thing to notice as well. There's no background to it. So when I exported, so when I rendered it with a transparent background. So that's quite easy to do on things like Fusion 360, Textura, Marmoset. There's always an option somewhere to do it with a transparent background. So that's the key thing to do here. Obviously, if it's just with like a product or an object, that's what you want. If you're doing like a scene, it would be slightly different. You'd want the scene to be with it, but because we're just doing like an object, so in this case R2, and we don't want a background on there. So I'm going to bring all these in, and I'm just not putting them anywhere particular at the minute, just sort of dragging them in. Like that. So I've got 4 different views. Obviously, depending on the product, or the object, depends on how many views you want to have. Now, if you've got, say, zoomed in parts, so a particular feature you want to zoom in on, you could zoom in on that and show certain parts in it. But for this case, we just want to have a few different views of showing like overall view of the model. So I'm not going to worry about where I'm going to put them first, but what we want to do is we kind of want to make them stand out on the background. At the minute, they're not. They're just on a plain white background. So what I'm going to do is just create a rectangle and just drag it to be the whole size like that. Okay, now just one solid color. I'm going to drag it down to the bottom like that. So like with Textura and Marmoset and other layer-based softwares, is you can always just drag things above others, so you can sort of change the order that they're on. Now, really what you don't want to have is like a solid background, just because it's kind of, well, you don't want the background to be over like catching people's eye, but you kind of want the models to sit there nicely. So what I like to do is if you come click on this background, I go to Effect, and I go to Gradient Overlay. And I've kind of got mine set up, so I've already got it as like a grey. I tend to use grey and white because it's quite a neutral colour. Some people like to do quite contrasting colours. There's some very, very nice presentations people do products where it's got very nice bright like oranges and greens and things, depending on what the product is. My go-to to begin with is normally just grayscale. And then depending on what the product is, it might change it. But if in doubt, I typically go with grayscale as is. So Gradient Overlay. If you click on that, you can sort of choose the colors you want to have as your gradient. So I double click, and then you can choose whatever colors you want to do, and you can see the difference it's making. I'm going to cancel that though, because I don't want to do that. And then I'm going to click OK. Now that's looking a bit better, but it's still kind of flat. So I'm going to select it again. I'm going to go ahead to Filter and come to Noise, and then just go to Add Noise. And that will get this pop-up saying Convert to Smart Object. I'm just going to click on that. Now, if I just drag this all the way across, you see what's going to happen. Essentially, it's making like staticky, like the old-time TVs. But I don't want very much, just something quite small. So something like 4, maybe even less than that. But I'll just click on 4 and click on OK. And in terms of the background, I just think there's nothing like massively eye-catching, but it just makes it's something for the models to sit onto. I'm now going to just think about how I want to sort of lay these out. So what I tend to like to do is have like an isometric view with like a big model, and then have a few other views slightly smaller. So I'm going to sort of like make these ones a little bit smaller, bring them into position. And all I'm doing, I'm dragging it, and then hold down Shift, so I can like do it uniformly. Make it nice and big as you can do without taking up too much space. Like that. I might bring this one here. I'm going to bring this one over here. So I always have like one view that's like the big main sort of view. So I might even make that a little bit bigger. Like that. So one that's sort of like the main view will show everything off, and a few of the smaller images. So I might even move that across a little bit. Maybe make that a little bit smaller. Just like that. So in terms of like the layout of that, I'm quite happy with that, but I still want them to stand out a little bit more on the page. So what I can do, if I take this big one first, which is this one here, if I go to the effects panel down here again, go to blending options, so I want to make it so you can see what's going on. So the ones I like to do, so if you click here and go to stroke, so what you'll see here, there's a black line, or I've got it set to black, that's just doing it like an outline of the overall thing. So if you've ever done like a sketching where I'd use like thick and thin lines, like the line weight rule with like fine liner pens, it's the same sort of thing. Now you can play around with stroke size and the opacity, so I could make stroke size bigger, nice like that, but you don't really, I want it to be quite subtle. So something like that, and then you can make it darker, so it can stand out a little bit more if you want to. Now again, that could be like, depending on the model. Sometimes subtleness is better. You just want something a little bit subtle that sort of like just means it's standing out a little bit more. So something around 450. And the other one I want to do is do an outer glow. So you see there's like a glow emitting from around the outside of the model, and do a drop shadow. It just takes that down a little bit and click OK. I'm going to do the same for all of those models. So I'm going to go to blend option. And because I've done it once, it remembers the settings I used before. So it's done 450 and then outer glow, drop shadow. You can change the glow, the color of your glow and your shadow as well. So if you wanted to, you could always change, make the shadow be a slightly different color if you want to. But again, I sort of tend to leave it as black. I don't tend to play around much with the other ones, so typically I say gradient overlay for the background, and then I tend to use stroke, outer glow, and drop shadow for the other ones. Stroke, and outer glow. Just like that. So that, in terms of like presenting models, done. What I like to do as well, I tend to put like the logo of the software that I've used along here, and then like my own little like logo and contact details or whatever, the logo, if it's going like your portfolio or anything like that. But that's sort of like how I will present my 3D models. So obviously, but like I said, spend loads of time modeling it and texturing. You want a nice little way, otherwise they don't do anything, just sort of sit on my computer and I look at them and go, oh, didn't I do a nice job? Well done me. But it's quite nice to sort of present them in a nice way and then into a portfolio, or you post it online or whatever you're going to do. So a bit of a different sort of video today. I haven't really done any Photoshop tutorials. Disclaimer, clearly I'm no master of Photoshop. I pretty much just use it to do this and to make alphas for like brushes and that sort of thing. But hopefully find it quite interesting. If you've got any questions, leave a comment down below, or email me at design with Simon@outlook.com.